Hello, bookworms! Today I'm going to do a non-spoiler review of The Archive by Victoria Schwab, which is a book that I read in the month of October. If you haven't read this book, I highly encourage you to watch this video because I feel like what? Oh. So first of all, let's do a little synopsis on this book, which I am very bad at. You will learn that I cannot give you a synopsis of a book to save my life because I'm just like, well, this happens, and then that, and I don't, The Archived follows the story of a girl named Mackenzie, and her family has just moved to where? I don't know. I probably should have prepared for this a little more, but they end up moving because their mom wants to start over, they want to start a new life, and it's like one of those whole other, we're moving to get a better feel of life, and her brother had just died approximately a year ago, so they're trying to cope from that. And it follows Mackenzie, who is a keeper, and basically what a keeper is that in this world there's like an alternate / parallel, not necessarily a universe, but it's this series of hallways and rooms and doors that they call the Archived. And basically in the Archived, it is people's bodies after they die, and it basically just stores their memory. They're just kept in almost these like crypts. Think of the like Silent Brothers from the Mortal Instruments, how they have all the dead bodies in that one area. Actually, they're nothing alike. I just felt like making a Mortal Instruments reference. Hey! I kind of have to explain to you what the archives are like, otherwise you won't understand, really. So, the archives are like a series of hallways and rooms that normal humans, like probably you and I, would not be able to see. They have a key, this is not a key, it's a ring, but they have a key set on a necklace that they carry around with them at all time, along with a scrap of paper, but we'll get to that part later. So, pretty much the keys open little doors in the walls in certain places of the world that, like I said, normal humans can't see. So from those doors, they enter a hallway, which is basically just what it sounds like a hallway. And these hallways have doors on either side of them, and like thousands of doors. And basically the doors either lead to a different part of the world, or nowhere, or an archived door. What Mackenzie does is that whenever any of those files or bodies wakes up on accident and escapes, they roam around the hallways because they're unable to get back into the real world unless they have keys. So they're just roaming around the hallways, and then the archives are alerted that they are out, and so they take her scrap of paper. I don't know how this works. That's one of the problems I have with this story. Basically, she has this scrap of paper with her, and it writes a name on the paper along with the age of the person who has escaped, and she has to go into the hallways of the archived, get the person, and put them back into a door, and that's what her job is. It's called a keeper. And so, basically this story, I keep saying the word basically, I'm sorry. The only issue with this is that her parents or anyone does not know she's a keeper. The only person that should know that you're a keeper is the people in the archived, and in this story there are only about 5 to 10 people in the whole archives that she interacts with on a daily basis. So pretty much everything she does in her life is on the DL, which is a pretty hard lifestyle, as you can imagine. So this just deals with an issue that she has where more and more people start escaping. They don't know why. It's getting really dangerous because people are like their minds are being erased, like their memories for the archive. So they have to discover who's doing that and why. And it's pretty much a mystery, actually. And I don't typically read mysteries, but I enjoyed this one. Now for the actual review, since we're already like 5 minutes into this just because the synopsis was that complicated. Without further ado, let's just start talking about what I did not and what I did like. The first issue I had with this book was that Mackenzie was kind of a boring character to use as a main character. She had no personality that stuck out to me. She was just kind of flat. I could say it's one of those people that I don't really remember after I finish the book. Like, they don't have a distinct personality to me, so I end up really bored with them. And it wasn't boring to read from her perspective, she just didn't really have a voice. Something about Mackenzie that I thought was really awkward was that we never actually got a physical description of her. So the whole book, like, not even I looked in the mirror and saw my hair. No. We never get anything like brown hair, what color eyes were you, how tall are you. We don't get anything, and that's really unusual. So the only thing I had to go off of was this profile of a face, which I assume is her. And even then, I don't know how tall she is, I don't know what color her hair is, I don't know how much milk she likes in her cereal. It just doesn't really give you that broad of an explanation of how she looks. So that was really upsetting that I didn't get that mental picture of her, which I guess contributed to why I didn't really see a personality in her, because I could literally not imagine her. The next main topic of issues I had with this book is that the world was really hard to imagine. Now, I'm not talking about the real world, the imagery of the apartment she lived in, beautiful. I loved it. I loved the place where she lived. It's all antique and old and had a ton of history behind it. But once she stepped into the archives, it took you about 100 pages to get the gist of what it was like. I think the archives are such a neat concept and such a cool, like, add-on to the real world, but they were really hard to get a grasp on, because I found myself being like, how did you but why in general, I was just kind of confused how she got from point A to point B, because there's all these different types of rooms and all this different stuff, and it went right over my head most of the time. Another thing that I noticed, which isn't necessarily an issue, but it's something I wanted to talk about, it is that the writing was less than great, and it was just kind of meh, in my opinion. I feel like for the most part it just wasn't very descriptive, but the story kind of needed description. It's a pretty short book for its content, for being such a new world to have to learn, and it described things, but I feel like it didn't describe things in a way that would make it matter. Like, it would tell you so much about how her bedroom looked or how her brother used to be, but her bedroom didn't matter and her brother was dead. So it's like, can you give me some description of what happens in the archives rather than things that I already know about or could guess about? It was just kind of confusing. However, despite the writing being kind of bland, it was not cheesy at all, which I was very grateful. But typically books that don't have the best writing are cheesy in some way. In this book, I was never groaning at the dialogue, and I was never like, kill me. It was just, like I said, meh. Like, for instance, I would read something else by her because I'm sure she's an amazing author. I know she has that adult standalone book thing. I've heard her name go around along with a book that came out from the adult genre. I'm not completely sure what book that is, but I'd be interested in reading that perhaps one day, because it's not a bad book. It just isn't the best. This kind of follows a couple of things I've been talking about, but this book lacks a lot of important explanations. For instance, we were not told the importance of the archives, which we're given the information and we understand what they do and what they are, but we're never really given the reason why, and I can't put the pieces together. Like, I don't understand why it's necessary because we're never told what the significance is. I don't even know what to say because I'm not completely sure what even the point was of these archives, but I think, especially in the next book, it would be really helpful if we got a pointer like, hey, this is why we need them, this is why they're important, this is why they were built or created or whatever. That would be fantastic. Something else that I'm confused about is that, what does it mean to be a keeper? Like, I know what they do and what they are, but how do you become one? It explains a lot about how her grandfather was a keeper, so I'm pretty much guessing that it's a thing that happens by genes and family, but if her grandfather is a keeper, then why aren't her parents keepers? That's just something that I want explanation on, is how do you become one? Is it just genes? Is it, like, inaugurating people? I have no clue. Inaugurating was the bad word, I meant nominating. And lastly, I wanted to know how the archive paper worked, because it was really funky. I'll try to explain it right now. I don't think it's spoilery, but pretty much someone from the archives and someone in the real world have a special type of paper, and if you write something on it, it absorbs into it, and then the person with the other paper receives it. That's what I'm guessing, because they're able to communicate between this paper and, like, the paper that she has in her pocket all the time. Like, she can feel whenever it gets written on, and it never explains who writes the stuff. Like, is it automatic in the archives or magical and write it? Or does someone in the archives go and, like, write it out after they realize who's missing? That's just, I need these things to complete the story. There's so many holes in it that I'm confused. Lastly, I just felt like the romance was a little bit awkward. Like, I like in my stories, especially in first person like this one is, I like for it to have maybe like a glimmer of the guy was hot, or I felt like he had a nice personality, like some sort of hint that the character is growing an attachment to them, because in this story it was so random whenever the romance began, because she pretty much considered him a friend the whole book, and then they, like, started this whole romance thing, and it was like, where did that come from? Like, it was inevitable, because obviously it's YA fiction, so it's gonna have some sort of love relation, most typically, so I was expecting they would become a thing, but it was just undeveloped, and even though it felt inevitable and I knew it would happen, I didn't really get an emotional reasoning behind it, because she never expressed that she even liked him like that, so again, it was random and awkward. The ending was a little bit abrupt, like they ended the conflict, but then it was like they had a good life, happy ever after. Like they solved the problem, but then afterward things just kind of go back to normal and everything's okay, then the book ends, and it was not unrealistic, but it was really weird. And it didn't really set up for a sequel, so I'm very intrigued on how that's gonna play out. Did they have a synopsis up for the next one? I don't know. I know there's a second one, but I don't know when it comes out or what it's about or anything like that, so I'm gonna have to do me some research. I do think the mystery aspect of this was really well played out. I thought it would be predictable. I was so set upon, like, this is gonna happen, that's the bad dude, but then I was like, what just happened? Because I did not guess anything of the ending, because it's so good. It's really mysteriously played out. I thought it was really well done. I think if Victoria Schwab was a mystery writer, she would be fantastic at it. I mentioned this before, but I do absolutely love the idea, and though I don't get the significance of it like I mentioned, I do think the archives are really interesting. I kind of want to go there just so I can be like, touchy touchy, what do these doors lead to? Oh, black voids of empty space, how fun. I would recommend this to people if someone were to say, hey Whitney, what's a good mystery book? I'd be like, hey! Oh. Hey! This is good Christmas present coming up, I'm just saying. Like I said, I would buy the sequel. I probably am gonna buy the sequel, and though it's not like on my top priority, gotta pre-order it right now type new release, but I do plan eventually to read it because I would like to see where this is going. I think we're gonna get more information, we're gonna get character development, we're gonna get a lot more fight scenes and stuff going down, so that's gonna be entertaining. Lastly, my rating for this book, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I just did a lot of talking. This is why I don't review things, because I go far too much into detail. Can't be tamed. So thank you for watching. Again, I recommend this book. If you like mysteries and you like almost a little bit creepy of books, this is really good. I know October just passed, so it's really an inopportune time to start shouting this out, but I did really like it. Again, check out Manuel's review. I'm gonna post it whenever he posts his. Until then, I'll have a link to his channel so you can creep until that day comes. So I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.